Hi everybody, it's James from Posture Stars, and today I'm doing a lovely podcast with Niamh Pentony of Boyne Ergonomics. Hi Niamh.
Hi James, how are you?
Yeah, really good. It's great to speak to you. I've been watching your stuff on LinkedIn quite a lot, and you're putting up some really useful, helpful and informative stuff. So I wanted to have a chat with you about exactly your take on posture and how you help your clients with posture. You're just south of Dublin a little bit, is that right?
North, so I'm about an hour north of Dublin.
An hour north of Dublin. Oh, I'm miles out then. It's a good job I'm not visiting. I'd be about 2 hours late. Okay. Well, you're an ergonomist, and you work with individuals and with companies, helping them deal with their pain issues, particularly with a lot of the work from home stuff that's going on. And posture has featured quite heavily in a lot of the problems that people are having recently. So I might as well move in and ask my first question, which is, Niamh, what is posture?
For me, posture is all about positioning. So, because I find if you get into the intricacies of it, people get a little bit lost. So, for me, your posture is your positioning relative to your spine. So, where's the arms, where's the legs, where's the head, where's the shoulders, where are the hips? And you know yourself, we're always trying to keep everything as close and as nice and close to the body as we can, nice and close to the spine, and in relatively neutral postures when we can.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in the modern working day, people are spending a lot of time in situations where they are either not doing that because of their ergonomic problems, or they're not doing that because they don't know any better. Which do you think's right on that front?
Or what I find is they can't do it. So even with the best will in the world, because of the equipment that they're using or the workspace that they're using, they can't adopt a kind of neutral, relaxed posture, or what I call a safe posture, where you have the least amount of stress on the body as you can have. It's just not always possible, and I think a lot of it is to do with fatigue. So people are just spending, as I'm sure you've found, way more time sitting than they ever did before, and the muscles get tired. Your back gets tired from holding you upright in a chair. And you might start off with a good posture, but after 45, 50, 60 minutes, you just start to come down on yourself because the muscles are tired from holding you.
Yeah,
I do think there's a lack of awareness as well. People just don't know how everything should be positioned to reduce the stress on your body.
So you put out some really interesting diagrams on the social media channels about how you should sit and how everything goes together. And I don't think people are naive in that they haven't got an awareness of this, but they can't map it into their own bodies. And particularly when they're at work, they've just they've lost that awareness of how they're sat completely, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, and then that's where we come in, because it's so much easier from us to come in from the outside and just see how they're positioned and to give them advice on how to fix it. It's very easy for another person to see it. And yourself, I'm sure you've noticed yourself when you're working, we will slip into poor postures ourselves sometimes because you're so focused on the work that you're doing, you lose that awareness of where everything is positioned.
Particularly with the screens that tend to, because there's such a big visual stimulus, to drag us in. And then also you've got that work ethic that everybody's really keen to work hard. And even people working remotely now, people are still afraid to step away from the desk in case they're seen as not being present, which is bonkers.
Yeah, and I talk about this with people all the time, and that's what I say to people. If you were in your original office building, you would think nothing of getting up every 30, 40 minutes to go and ask somebody a question, or to go make that cup of coffee, or even just to go around and have a chat with colleagues. You would think, because you're in the office building, so you're still in work. In your mind, you're still working because you were in the office. Whereas when you're working from home and you're just at the computer, that is your office. So I think a lot of people feel that when they step away from the computer, they're stepping away from work, which is totally fine. But psychologically, it doesn't feel like it is.
Yeah, it's strange. Also, just standing up and doing a bit of work, some people feel as if that's a weird thing as well. So I'm stood up now. I've got a standing desk. I've raised it. I'm standing to do our podcast, our interview, and I feel quite comfortable doing it. But when I've worked with ergonomic assessments with people and I say, hey, you can stand up during your Teams meeting, it's almost as if I've said something that nobody's ever considered.
Yeah, and because I find, like, I have a standing desk as well back in the home office, but I just find I can't type and stand. For me, that's not comfortable. But
Mm.
I, like yourself, I will stand for interviews. I'll stand for my virtual assessments because I'm happy and comfortable standing and talking on the camera. But if I want to do some work that involves quite a lot of concentration, I will bring it back down to the sitting position. And like that, I recommend this to people all the time. And again, they've just never thought of it. That it's
Yeah.
so much, it is easier to stand for calls because you're not as static. If you're standing typing, yeah, you're standing, but your shoulders, your arms, they're all still in this static position. Whereas I'm sure you find the same when you're standing for calls, you shuffle around, you talk with your hands,
Mm.
you're not static. And I
Yeah.
find that's a great benefit.
Yeah, I'm swaying now as we talk, just moving from foot to foot, and or maybe that was last night's cider. I'm not sure, one or the other. So my second question I have, and we're starting to answer this already, is in terms of your remote ergonomic assessments, is what do you do to help people's posture, Niamh?
The first thing I do, I always take two approaches. So the first thing I do is I look at the equipment they have. Is it fit for purpose? And are they positioned correctly relative to that equipment? So are they positioned correctly relative to the height of their desk? Is their monitor positioned correctly then? So I always start with the desk height. So are their elbows essentially in their right position? When they let the shoulders fall, is the elbow level with the table? Do they have support under their feet, either the floor or footrest, whatever it may be? That's your starting point. That's the skeleton. And then we kind of fill out the workstation from there. Is the keyboard, the mouse, the monitor all positioned correctly around this skeleton? And that's kind of part one. And then part two for me is always trying to find ways for them to build in the mobility during the day, because it's all well and good having the right equipment and having yourself positioned correctly with it. But for me, I think that's only half the battle. The other half is your mobility. You have to keep moving during the day or you will develop problems with your back, your neck, your shoulders and your eyes. So the mobility is incredibly important. So I always take kind of a two-pronged approach at it. So deal with the physical, deal with the workstation, but then try and teach them how to build in mobility, especially working from home. Because I think that's the area that suffers the most with lack of mobility.
Yeah, yeah. And when people are working from home, it's a great opportunity to get out and go for a lunchtime walk. Or, do you know, actually, I find working from home, there's always stuff to do to keep me mobile. There's always washing to put on and dishes to clean. And, there's always something that I can do 5 or 10 minutes an hour.
I agree, absolutely. But I find funny because I would do that. And actually, that's why I'm in a co-working space today, because I find I have too much distraction at home. So when I need to get something done, I want to step away. But funny, I find people working from home, they're not, like at least 90% of people are not getting up and sticking a wash on or getting up and doing a little, some kind of task or chore not related to work. I find most people are actually just staying at the desk and trying to get through the work rather than actually breaking it up with other little tasks during the day. And I think now coming into, like, we're March now, the weather, fingers crossed, should start improving a little bit. And I think it's a great opportunity. I always say to people, once the weather improves, have a look at what video calls, have a look at what virtual meetings you have booked in for the day. What ones can you take on your phone? Like, do you need to be in front of a screen? Take it on your phone, put the earphones in, take it out in the garden, take it out for a walk. Leave the desk for any call that you can. And just take it on the walk. Because I find it's great for productivity. Any of these brainstorming sessions that people are doing with their teams, it's actually great to do them on the move because it helps. It stimulates the mind and relaxes your back, your neck, your shoulders, and gives you a break from the desk.
Yeah, it's a great idea. A lot of counsellors and psychotherapists now are starting to take outdoor sessions as well, just because getting people moving is really good for their well-being. And that's a kind of task rotation kind of thing. If you've got several things on in the day, spread them out so that you can go for your little walks while you're doing them. There's no point sitting there for 6 hours and then having 2 hours on your mobile walking around the park. Spread it all through. And
it has to be broken up. Like, if you sit there for 6 hours, you've done the damage already. The walk's not going to do anything,
Yeah, well, you're not going to be able to walk because you just collapse onto your knees when you leave the desk.
Around the house.
So you've got when you're working from home, you've got a great excuse to move because you look after adoptive kittens. Is that right?
Yes. So we have our own cat, and then we foster kittens until they're kind of ready to go to be adopted. So there's always a creature lurking around to keep me on my toes and keep me busy.
Do they jump into the screen when you're doing remote virtual assessments?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And even my older cat does it sometimes. There's normally one, like, I know, because I work from a bedroom when I'm doing the virtual assessment. There's always a cat on the bed. I don't know which one it's going to be, but there will always be a cat on the bed at some point during the day.
They just can't keep away, can they? They can't keep away. No. So you're helping people with remote virtual assessments, and presumably you're visiting offices as well and helping people in those environments?
Back on site, yeah. So offices, factories, wherever there's an issue. Yeah.
Is there? It's early 2022 now. Do you think there's going to be a move back to workplace predominantly, or do you think it's going to stay as a hybrid thing wherever possible?
Majority of people I'm talking to are staying hybrid because a lot of companies I'm dealing with now have gotten rid of a lot of their office space. Yeah. So there's now, where there might have been 200 desks, there's now 100 or 75 desks. And they're just rotating people. I think hybrid's going to stay. For the majority of people, I think hybrid's going to stay.
I think so. And a sort of hybrid, because companies that I talk to looking for workshops kind of want the workshop in the office and then the remote assessments obviously remotely. So they're kind of doing team stuff together and then sending people off to go off and do their own thing again. And I mean, it's pros and cons of all of it, but it's for those people who get to work hybrid, it's good for most of them. But I have some of my assessments, I see people who their space at home is just so compromised that it is impossible for them to work properly without the addition of extra furniture or extra equipment at the very least. Are you seeing a lot of that?
Oh, absolutely. I find especially a lot of younger workers who are house sharing. The only private space they have is their bedroom. And I know I've met on virtual assessments young people who are quite new to the workforce. They could be sharing a house with 4 other people. Yeah. And the only space they have is the bedroom. The common areas are the kitchen and the sitting room. And there might be somebody working from there. So, yeah, I've definitely met people who are really limited for space. The one thing I'll say is there is usually something that can... I've never had an assessment yet where we haven't been able to do something. Even if you've had to think outside of the box a little bit, there's always a way to improve posture. Like, my own workspace at home is very small, but you can make it work. And the thing is, I found anyway with COVID, there's been big advancements on the equipment that you can get for small spaces. Mm-hmm. Whereas at the start of COVID, you were really very limited on what you could get.
Yeah, so that's right.
There's always something you can do, even if you have to, jig something together on the fly. There is always something you can do.
Yeah, you can help your own area with something as simple as some floorboard planks, or some books under your feet, or a couple of pillows, and strap them to your chair. There's always something you can do.
There's always something. Yeah.
Those of you who are working at home and having a rough time of it, try and take 5 or 10 minutes to improvise, and you could step back from where you're working and look at it as an outsider, as Niamh says. Sometimes it's really hard to see the wood for the trees, so pretend you've walked into someone else's house and look at it and think, wow, how could I fix that for them?
Yeah, I always say to people, get a third person, second person, get someone else to take a side view of you at your desk. Just sit as you normally would, do what you normally would do, and either get someone to record you on your phone, a short video, or take a side view, that side view angle. That side view picture can tell you so much, and you'll see straight away what you need to fix. You know what I mean? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Look at where the hips are, look at where the knees are, where's your head, where's your elbows, and then just have a look around your space. What do you have that could help? What could help my feet? What could make me sit a bit higher? The side view tells you loads, and if you have somebody that can help and do that for you, you will be able to see where you're going wrong.
So, my third question is, if you were to offer one piece of advice to our listeners right now, what would it be? Do you think that would be your advice, to use a second person?
That would be one. But I have to say, my main piece of advice is, and I've actually got one myself recently. So I'm very big, as you know, on mobility, because as I said, I think equipment and positioning is 50% of the problem. I think lack of mobility has a lot to answer for at the moment too. What I have actually recently got, like, a lot of people have smartwatches that will buzz every 50 minutes, tell them to move. Very easy to ignore. A lot of people have little apps on their phone that will beep. Very easy to ignore. Hit snooze. I'm not moving. I'm in the middle of something. Yep. What I have actually found, and I got one myself to give it a go, and I'm finding it really useful. So I got myself a little productivity clock. Now, it looks like a little, I don't have it here, but it looks like a little small alarm clock. Okay?
That's what I use.
Yeah, you just twist, and I twist it to 45 minutes, and my 45-minute segment is green, because I'm very visual. My little product, it's green, and I can see it getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then a little alarm goes off when it gets to 45 minutes. That has, for me, changed definitely how I work. I'm a lot more, and I've recommended to a lot of people recently, and I'm getting really good feedback. I'm a lot more focused in the time that I'm at the desk. So when I'm doing my reports and that kind of thing, I get very easily distracted. I will type 2 sentences of a report and I'm gone. I'm away with the fairies. But I find with this clock, I see the green. No, I'm going to get this done. So I'm focused when I'm there, but I move. When the time comes, I get X amount done in this 45 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it needs to be. I get X amount done and I step away and I go do something else.
Fantastic.
And I just find we have become so reliant, like the likes of the watches, like they're so easy to ignore those little movement reminders that we block them out altogether. So I'm always trying to find tools and tips that will help get people out of the chair. So it could be the movement clock, I find, or the productivity clock, that works for me. Another thing I find is, yes, use a productivity app or a break reminder app on your mobile phone, but don't have the phone on your desk. Put the phone across the room. So every time you get a notification, every time the alarm goes off, you have to get up and go and get it. Yeah, it's annoying and it's irritating, but it does your body so much good that you have left that chair. Even for a minute, that's all you do. But to do that frequently during the day does your body so much good.
Brilliant. So it's the act of moving, isn't it? And having, so you're talking about having an external indicator or an external stimulus which is outside of the screen, outside of your current working practice.
Outside of the screen, yeah, because everything that's inside is so easy to ignore.
Yeah.
Whereas I find if you have something external like the productivity clocks or the reminders on your phone, as long as the phone is not on your desk, it needs to be outside of your workspace. So when the alert goes off, you have to get up to turn it off.
It's like me in the morning, Niamh. If I've got my alarm clock next to me, then I'm not getting up for another 3 hours. But if it's on the other side of the room, then I stand a chance. Okay, so I think I've covered what I want to chat with you about. We've got what is posture? How do you help posture? And what would you recommend people to do? So how do people get hold of you if they want some more advice from you?
Yeah, so if anyone's looking for me, my website is www.boyneergonomics.ie. I can be contacted there. There is a link there to contact me, but you can also email me at info@boyneergonomics.ie, or you can find me on Instagram. Is probably the best place to find me, and it's Boyne_ergonomics. I'm always on Instagram. I'm always posting little tips and little tricks, like yourself, James, trying to help the masses and reduce discomfort.
Yeah, you are prodigious on Instagram. Definitely worth following. Niamh on Instagram, everybody, and some really useful stuff on there. So I'll put some links on my website as well that those of you who are listening to this on the website can click and get out to. And for those of you who are sat and listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, I urge you now to turn us off and go and do some movement and do something else apart from sitting there and staring at a screen or listening to us, because interesting as we are, there's a whole world out there. So go and have a bit of a break.
Exactly. Go put the kettle on, get out of the chair.
Go and have a nice cup of tea. Well, Niamh, it's been great talking to you. Thanks so much for your time. And I hope our listeners have learned some little tips and tricks there that they'll be able to apply. And we look forward to seeing you another time. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been the Posture Stars podcast with Niamh Pentony from Boyne Ergonomics.
Thanks, James.